So the live streaming's starting now. If you want to let people know, that's great.
I've got that old-fashioned love in my heart, and there it shall always remain. You're like that old ivy vine, cling a little closer all the time. Through the years, joy and tears, just the same. I've got that old-fashioned faith in my heart, and there it shall always be. Although the land may change to sea, it will never make any change in me. I've got that old-fashioned love in my
you better hurry and let's go down there. Ain't you going to that little man, raggy meter man? Oh, honey, let me take you to Alexander, grandstand, brass band. Ain't you coming along? Come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Come on in here. It's the best band in the land. They can play the bugle call like you never heard before. Sounds so natural that you wanna go to war. That's just the best band in the land. Oh, honey lamb, come on along. Let me take you by the hand. Up to the man who is the leader of the band. And if you hear the Swanee River played in ragtime, come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band.
Baby, won't you please come on? Baby, won't you please come on home? 'Cause you left me all alone. I have tried in vain, never more to call your name. I pray no more we'll ever part, Every hour of the day you can hear me say, baby, won't you?
Okay. All right. Welcome to Poets and Pints number 73. And it's going to be our last virtual show for a while, hopefully. We might still try to broadcast the live shows. Still working on that. Don't know if that's going to happen. My name's Tony Plocido, and I'm your host and curator for this show. I also have an associate curator. Their name is Ashley, but they also have a newborn baby, so they're not here at the moment. I assume baby stuff has come up, and so, you know, it happens. Usually there's a few more people here by now. I don't, maybe it's just nice weather everywhere. But it is being broadcast on YouTube and will also be on YouTube. So if you have any friends, family who maybe missed the show, they can always watch it later on our YouTube channel. All you have to do is search Poets and Pints in YouTube and you will find it. So I was going to have Ashley give me a poem to read, and she didn't show up, so I got a little knocked off my game. Charlie, you usually have a poem from an author that we might not have heard of. Do you have one handy by chance? I know you got books behind you.
I can. Yeah, give me a second and I'll find one.
Okay. I'm going to try to find one too. We do have one of our features who has not shown up. I don't know where they are. So we're going to move along without them. But we will just sort of tread water right now. This is this is the way it goes sometimes. Just to give you some idea of some stuff that's coming up, there is a Bridges has a show, or wait, nope, that's wrong. Literary Lights has a show coming up at Next Chapter Books in July. So make sure you check that out. That's always good work. That's another Cracked Walnut affair. We're part of Cracked Walnut, which is a local chapter of the League of Minnesota Poets. So we are a registered nonprofit. And we also like to support any other shows. So if you have a show, especially if it's in the Twin Cities, we're happy to tell people about it. Just send it to poetsandpints@gmail.com and we'll get that out there so that other people know what's going on. And are you ready to go?
I am. This is a book that was given to me a couple of years ago. The author is, or the poet is Robert Plocido. The book is Hollywood and God. And the poem is, please refrain from talking during the movie. When I can't make you understand, I repeat myself, I repeat. If you don't stop asking me all these questions, how will I understand anything? Please refrain from talking during the movie. I need a life that isn't just about needing to escape my life. Please, God, please may Carrie please fall for me. I want to show off my hidden camera. I'm an informer, but I have my limits. You hurt him once before, now what? If she's there, I don't know if I can go. Please refrain from talking during the movie. Leave a message if you can't reach me. To exit, press enter, and don't forget your receipt. When I think I read new things, I want a life where I read and think new things. Please refrain from talking during the movie. I want to know nothing again. Please, God, please may Carrie please fall for me. I repeat myself when I can't make you understand. I repeat.
As soon as I can remember how to work the buttons. Okay, thank you so much for doing that. Now, oh, somebody else is joining. Excellent. Sarah Dahl, you put a poem in the chat and it's too small and I can't read it from the chat, but would you like to read it for us as another poem from somebody we haven't heard of?
Yeah, sure. Give me one sec.
Thank you.
I got it right here. So this is by James Selar. He's a local poet in the Twin Cities. And I just got his new book, Shadowgraphed. This isn't from that book, but it is one of my favorite poems by him. And it's called The Way Words Echo in Our Heads. I wish we could hear them just once, instead of over and over. One day, tired, I sat down on the couch just to listen to the ringing in my ears. My eyes are so deep set in my head, it makes it hard to see past the memory of lost glamour, being born too late, living in the shadow of a beautiful downtown turned into a ghost town, a hollowed hulk, and how that itself now turns into a memory of treasures. How when something taken for granted is subtly over. The pause when you take stock and realize you'll never have as much, that change is always a lessening, the wall effect. You can't see what's next, even though it's supposedly obvious. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I'm just barely here.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. So that's a couple of poems from an author you might not have heard of. Charlie, we put the name of and the author of the poem into the chat for us, just so that if people liked it, they could find it later. And Ciara, will you do that too? Because you only sent it to me. All right, so we're going to move right on to our first feature, who is not Nemaya the jazz poet, because I don't know where they are. So we skip on to the next person, who is Jenna Lee. A Minnesota-born daughter of Vietnamese refugees, Jenna Lee is the author of 6 Rivers and out of NYQ Books and a history of, how do you say that word?
Cetacean is a whale.
History of the Cetacean American Diaspora from Indolent Books. The latter was a second-place winner in the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association's Elgin Awards, voted on by the international members of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association. A 2-time winner of the Poetry by the Sea Sonnet Competition, Lee has had poems appear in AGNI, Denver Quarterly, Los Angeles Review, Massachusetts Review, Michigan Quarterly Review, Pleiades, Poet Lore, Verse Daily, West Branch, and elsewhere. Lee is a poetry co-editor for Pulse, Voices from the Heart of Medicine. She has a BA in math and an MD and lives in NYC. Everybody, please welcome Jenna Lee.
Thanks, everyone. So I always like to start a set by reading poems I've never read before, so we could have this special experience together where you're hearing these poems for the first time and I'm reading them for the first time. So I'm going to start with a sonnet. This one is called Guilty Pleasures. Half of my favorite works of fan fiction are stories that anesthetize the pain produced by the original's depiction of harsh events. The person whom the main character loved, who met a tragic end, is resurrected in the fan-made sequel. The star-crossed couple gets a chance to mend and consummate a bond that has no equal. The other half are stories that prolong the pain and also boost its magnitude, deliciously until my nerves all tingle. Near misses multiply and roadblocks throng. Epiphanies loom close, yet still elude. Misunderstandings keep our heroes. All right, so this next one's also a new one. This one is going to appear in Starline. I'm reading it for the lovers of science fiction poetry among us. This was written in response to a NaPoWriMo prompt, basically to take a word from classical from like classic Greek mythology and a word from science fiction and use them in the same poem. So the words I picked were Daphne and airlock. And the poem is called Commander Daphne. Her hands, stiff, gauntleted, close leadenly around the spaceship's glassy red door handles. In one bound, she flings her silver-suited body toward the narrow airlock. Heavy-booted legs are first to arrow through the tight, round portal. Next, her thighs in haste slide through. Then, like a girdle, the threshold hugs her waist. But all this time, the swarm's been gaining on her quickly. Shifting shape, it forms a tentacle that thickly coils around her throat as if it would obstruct her breath. She yelps a note into the mouthpiece tucked inside her helmet. This initiates a morph. Her fingers start to hiss like noisy ocean surf, transmuting into cells of energy, pure light. She'll turn up somewhere else, reconstitute her slight corporeal frame someplace it's safer, and start over. She always does. She's erased the god like this forever. So this is moving from I guess, slightly serious to more serious. This is a poem from earlier this year. It's called The Day That Anti-Asian Hate Crimes Made the News. I know that springtime has returned because the sun sieved through the gaps in scaffolding above me makes me sweat beneath my winter wraps. The feather-bloated, plum-dark coat I grabbed by habit from the chair, it draped as I dashed out the door, in too much of a rush to spare a sec to check the weatherman's predictions. I feel silly now, my out-of-season quilted hood, so snug an arc around my brow, my bangs are plastered down with damp. Yet, more than silly, what I feel is scared. The warming weather strips me of all pretext to conceal my face with hat and scarf. Compelled to bare my head now to the world, to let all passers-by drink in the sight of silky black hairs curled around my temples, to detect my golden eyelids curved above brown eyes, I might invite who knows what crimes of hate or what warped love. I grew up in Minnesota. I spent the first 18 years of my life in the Twin Cities area. So I have a lot of winter poems, and this is one of them. This one recently appeared in the Journal of Southeast Asian Education and Advancement. It's called Reverberations. Snow coats the sloped roof. No ravage, no rampage, no rage. In place of yesterday's winter storm warning, this is simply morning. No blizzard, unless you mean the snowstorm of whispers on an ultrasound machine's pixeled, pixie-filled screen. Someone mounted that snow on the tiles, the way a doctor in an aqua smock heaps goo from a bottle on a girl's belly to see inside. The fog's rocker bottom feet walk heavy on our skulls. There's someone trying to see inside us to tell us that we're healthier than we know. All right, so here's another Minnesota poem. So I grew up in the Twin Cities area. Those of you who are from the Twin Cities, you know, there's a kind of a fancy grocery store called Byerly's. And this poem is called Byerly's. It's also a sonnet. Byerly's. The aisles were carpeted in oyster gray with deep blue edging, and they sold a damn good wild rice soup. One service that they offered free of charge, they'd snap your headshot, print it on a card for you to keep inside your pocket. Then each time you came and whipped it out, they'd gift you with a cookie, chocolate chip. I'd wheedle mom to take me there on midday trips, feast on the face-sized gooey sweetness while she shopped. Like Easter eggs, the tidy gray-blue aisles were blipped with little plastic boxes stocked with recipes, ripe for plucking. First, leave the only home you know and grope across the ocean in a holy hole. Wash up someplace it's winter half the year, but where there's banks, fine stores, good schools. Then wait for your children's thanks. So I guess I'm a sucker for, thank you. I guess I'm a sucker for cold weather because I've been, after I left Minnesota, I've been living in other cold climates. For a while I lived in New Hampshire. And I want to read you a New Hampshire poem. And it is right here. All right. So this is a dispatch from Hanover, New Hampshire. I wrote this early in the, not the current presidency, but the one before that. There's a reference, so just to make that clear. Dispatch from Hanover, New Hampshire. 1. Mid-February's here. The president, inaugurated 3 short weeks ago, just turned the EPA's reins over to a climate change denier, Salon laments. Today's high, 49 degrees. Ice sculptures across the Dartmouth Green are melting fast, limbs snapping off and shattering. Funny that when temps start rising, ice gets cloudy colored, as if it thinks, like some postmodern writers, opaqueness has the power to thwart extinction. Just yesterday, upon this chiseled griffin's outstretched right paw, there perched an owl of ice. 2. At 3 years old, I had a vivid nightmare. My mom was standing at her bedroom window, lifting the gauzy curtain with one hand so she could see. The lamp cast golden light where she lingered on that crisp midwinter evening, excitedly calling me to come and look. You won't believe this, right here on our block, a big ice sculpture, a miracle, all gleaming beneath the Botton's porch lights. Rapt, she stared. But I was mad at her, some childish snit, and feigned I did not hear her, dragged my feet. And when I relented, there was nothing there. So this is a Vermont poem, just to keep on with our New England theme. This one is called, it borrows its title from a country song I like. It's called Please Don't Tell Me How the Story Ends. And it's one of many poems I have that are sort of inspired by my work in hospitals. A Vermont man, rural, lacerated his knee with a chainsaw doing tree work one summer. The wound festered, not angrily, but with a slow, simmering puzzlement. This lasted years. One day he fingered it, felt something hard inside, pulled out a shiny piece of glass. Another time he pulled a blade of grass out of it, and then a whole maple leaf, so perfect it filled Canadian flag makers with envy. Started feeling mighty proud of himself, like King Arthur when he made that stone belch up a sword. He began pulling bigger and bigger things out of his knee. A dime, a dollar bill, a bandana, a quail's egg, and the quail hatched too. He got to calling himself the wizard, made the circuit of local festivals, state fairs. Now you'd think the story ends someplace bad, a psych ward or an OR or an early grave, a wimpled lady shoveling dirt on a corpse that died of 3 parts delusion, 1 part gangrene. But I think the times have just gotten to you. The pessimists opining on TV have dragged you down to their level. The Vermonter, he's still making the rounds, still finding 7-Eleven receipts, perfectly folded road maps, and poetry broadsheets tied with slim blue ribbons in his knee. Sometimes butterflies come foaming out, 5 or 6 at once, beating lavender wings. So I'm going to read this poem to make sure I have time for it. It's a little bit longer. It's a dramatic, sort of dramatic monologue. It's called The Origami Master Breakfasts with His New Apprentice. This gentle wind, it'll blow away a dry napkin, but not a wet one. Still, my origami beasts aren't safe, must be moved off the window ledge. Observe this one right here. Neither crane nor cicada, none of that traditional stuff for me, not now. This century, this dynasty, this outlandishly wigged king, they call for new strategies, modern weaponry, exotic species. This one I'm holding in my palms was modeled after a strange fish my lover saw from his ship sailing back from Australia. A wrinkled, warm-blooded codger. No, I'm not talking of my lover now, impertinent child. It looks shapeless to you, I know, scarcely recognizable as one of God's creatures. But as with sunlight, your eyes will grow used to its face in a blink or two. Then you'll be able to see nothing else, not even with your eyes shut. It's like that with me now. When my eyelids touch, I always smell the sea. I wish I'd been there with him the first time he saw this bizarre organism, its pudgy snout, dimpled chin, short arms, stiff tapered tail. Though it dwarfed his largest horse by half, he wasn't scared, not for a second. You see, exotic doesn't always mean dangerous. And he said that to me too the night we met. It was at a tavern by the docks where the foreign merchant ships anchor. I think I'll teach you how to fold this one today once the dishes are cleared. It's an easy one to start with. It would teach your hands confidence. You'll need that lesson in coming days. This century, this dynasty. When the dugong splashed him, he staggered. Brine clung to his nose hairs, stinging. Then it lightly swam away. So I'm going to read another. I have a lot of manatee poems. My next collection is called Manatee Lagoon, and there's a lot of manatee poems in it. and you know, I have a marine mammal theme going on. So this one's called capgrass seagrass. You sometimes think you suffer from capgrass. Sea turtles, without thinking too much about it, feed on seagrass. Capgrass syndrome is a psychiatric condition where the afflicted cannot be dissuaded from the horror-inducing belief that her family and friends are in fact imposters wearing close-fitting skin suits and uncannily lifelike human masks. Seagrass is a vegetation common to shore-adjacent marine environments, the sustenance of not only sea turtles, but also manatees and even some fish such as mullets. As quantities of seagrass dwindle due to unchecked real estate development, pollution, and other human factors, ocean ecosystems are being upturned, their centers ripped out like a face without eyes. Still, the nature documentary ends on a note of cautious optimism. If only we can motivate ourselves to enact sensible policies, such as turning 1/3 of the world's oceans into protected reserves, populations of threatened species such as sea turtles will bounce back. Tonight, in the effusively golden, deceptively warm light of your TV room lamp, you thought your boyfriend of 6 years looked not at all like himself, but like his younger self, gussied up to look like his older self. And this made you feel not horror, but tenderness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, everybody, feel free to unmute and actually let her hear your applause.
Hey.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now, Jenna, why don't you unmute for me?
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you used to live in Twin Cities, but you left, what, just after high school?
I went to college on the Northeast and I kind of got stuck out here. So, yeah.
Did you do poetry then? When did you start poetry?
I've been writing poetry all my life since I was a kid. I mean, since I was a teenager, it was sort of like like during those hard adolescent years is sort of what kept me together. And I've just sort of been doing it on the side of everything else I've been doing my whole life.
Nice. And who do you take inspiration from, whether it be poets or any other writers?
So among people who are dead, I like to think of myself as, I've always, the strong women in the history of poetry, starting from Sappho on down to, Ho Xuong Huang in Vietnam, Edna St. Vincent Millay in America, a lot, the strong women poets in history. I sort of see that being a lineage I always, saw myself as aspiring toward.
Nice. And do you have any books on the way, or?
I do. It's not going to come out to 2022, Manatee Lagoon. But in the meantime, I have a history of the cetacean American diaspora and Six Rivers are out. So. And
those are on your website? People can
those are on my website, jennaleewriting.com.
And I did post those twice during your set, so people have them. But again, I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
I'm sure I will. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. That's a Minnesota thing. Sorry. All right. All right. Moving on here to our next person. As soon as my mouse catches up with my mind. Okay. Next up, we have Ciara Shuttleworth. Ciara Shuttleworth's poetry has been published in journals and anthologies, including The New Yorker, the Norton Introduction to Literature, Plowshares, and the Southern Review. Shuttleworth received an MFA in poetry from the University of Idaho and art degrees from San Francisco Art Institute and Gustavus Adolphus College, yes, the one here in Minnesota. The former Kerouac House of Orlando writer-in-residence is the author of Rabbit Heart, Night Holds Its Own, and 4,500 Miles, Taking Jack Back on the Road. Please, everybody welcome Ciara Shuttleworth.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
Do I just start reading? Well, I do have to say that Tony said that he was surprised I wasn't wearing a dress when I came on and I'm in a t-shirt. And I said, well, I'm a little sunburned. So that's part of it. Should I go change? And he said, you can do whatever you want. And I said, okay, I'm just going to stay like this. This is fine. Jenna, that was so amazing. Thank you. I didn't know your work before, and I'm so glad to. You had a line, it was something like, when my eyelids touch, I smell the sea. And it was, oh, you had me there. I have to find that in whichever book you have it in, even if it's not until 2022. That was such a beautiful line. But I also have to say that I wish I was as charming and funny as Erin Adair Hodges, who was on the last show. This is her book. Everybody should buy it. It is amazing. She is incredible. I guess that leaves nothing more than... So I was going to read this 10-minute poem that's the cornerstone for Rabbit Heart, my new book. But it's kind of dark. And as a poet, I don't know how people like keep their emotions in check when they're reading poetry, because I don't. And 7 Years in San Francisco is a poem that I have a really difficult time not crying while reading. At least at some point, I'll choke up and get emotional. And I always envy those people who can just read whatever, and it doesn't matter how emotional it is. So bravo to you guys. Also, fuck you, because I wish I could do that. So I thought I'd read, Tony's laughing. I'll read 8 poems from Rabbit Heart and leave it at that. Love's cartographers. Life work passed hand to hand, each layer built upon the luck or curse of generations before. Secrets held by skin, lips, loins, years in memory faltering before taking up the pen to record the route taken, myth or truth, and a path sought by the next set of hands. Pen barely skimming the surface of the page, each fleeting mark spreading into aged heavy cotton bond, stronger strokes leaving ridges and gashes. When a bead of sweat or tear smudges a line between terrain, the paper lifts in a welt like new land rising through fog. So that's, excuse me, actually the first poem in the book. And rather than mixing it up, I thought I would just go through, and I picked out kind of every few pages a poem that I really love. So this one is called Eventually Soon, and this is kind of the definition of limerence. Eventually soon. If you believe there is no beginning or end, no ceiling or ground to contain us, that we may float and nest like birds in the in-between, the dust on moth wings as dirty as it gets, then you must forget. Forget the accumulation of artifacts and wrinkles. Forget the dead roses in the vase so that you might throw them away without guilt. Take these first few days recklessly, as you must, but know that all you promise has been drawn up, a contract unwritten but signed. You know, when I turn to you, it is in search of the joy I held when you flew after me. Maybe that's about the time you start thinking that when love gets too heavy, you've got to lay it down. Because you know that when I turn from you, I am seeking the same flight. So this next one is actually the earliest, thank you, is actually the earliest draft in this book. It's called Independence Day, and it was summer of 2000. Yes, 21 years ago. I had just graduated from Gustavus in Minnesota. And I was living in Chicago for the summer, and it was 4th of July. And so the scaffolding for this poem happened July 4th, 2000. And finally, I completed a draft and got it published when I was in grad school. Independence Day. I'm concentrating on the rear view like I'm going somewhere, like I don't feel like touching up my life with the tire iron. like I meant to break every firecracker dish and glass for the beauty of it only and only for you. It's the 4th of July, and there's a girl on the corner, NutraSweet skinny with black hair and black pants. The light's fading, but I know she's waiting, like me, for it all to blow her away. I don't have to look through your window or lean against your door frame to know you're already asleep, teeth grinding in admiration of a landing helicopter's fine rhythm. If I jumped off this alley into your dreams, even if I emerged from the helicopter, you'd sleep on. 4th of July, and there's a blanket over a stop sign, hanging askew, a glowing ice sculpture in headlights. Caution, iceberg ahead. I'll still be sizzling when your sun rotates back toward our sky, pulling you with it to stand. I'll hand you coffee and cross my legs like a prom queen. I'll say, you're going about this like a used car salesman, telling me to hitchhike blue skies. I'll take your silence for response. I'll unravel the fuse and coax it into flame. I'll say, boom. Thank you. It's so weird to see the silent clapping. I'm just going to take a little sip of water. See, this is like normal, like reading behavior. It's like I'm getting dry mouth because I'm nervous, because I'm an awkward human and I'm a poet, right? I'm seeing some nods and shrugs. Okay, so this one is, I've written you a sunset. You park on the curb of my heart, never come in. Just rev your engine like I've been waiting, primped and perfumed by the mirror. But I'm not here for your test drive, hit and run. I want it all in writing because I don't believe a word you're breathing down my neck. You bought your heart from a street vendor, and who cares if I spent hours crafting canny dialogue when you never get your lines right? But the sky is smoothing, so here's your out. Thank you. So this one, you know how you can run like your manuscript through, I forget what it's called, but we used to do it in grad school, and it would like pop out the words that you use the most. So moon is one of the words that I apparently use the most. And this is called the moon's silence. The moon asks nothing more than to be full once a month. So I'll wait for morning when I can share lies with the crow outside my window. Anyone can be angry enough to disappear. Even the moon leaves us in dark one night a month. I take a taxi and pretend I'm in a movie. I'm in the back seat, the bass of the soundtrack pulsing through my hands, shifting my destination from nowhere, fast. I tell the driver, just keep driving, drive all night, windows down. The moon slips in, sits beside me like someone I could call a friend. What I want is sunrise tasting like kisses, grapefruit red, and caught on an incoming tide. Reckless promises I intend to keep. I'm not ready to face the dark alone, and neither is the moon, the Hollywood starlet who rarely shows her face before dinner. But we know when she swoons from the sky, it's not suicide, just a plea we don't forget her. Thank you. The silent applause again. So awkward, just like me. Makes me feel more at home, this awkwardness of this. Thank you, Tony, for nodding at that. So this one, this one is Waiting for Nothing. And when I lived in New York briefly for like a year before doing a bunch of residencies and landing in Eastern Washington, I used to love going and doing things on my own. And it was something that I hadn't done since San Francisco. I went to grad school in a very small town, Moscow, Idaho. And to live in a big city again and just like go to movies on your own, or like go and eat on your own, or go and just like do things on your own, because it's just like that's what you do in cities. It was incredible to be back in New York. And so one of the things that I loved was going to matinee movies by myself. And more to people watch than anything else. And so I would always sit in the back row or the second to back row and people watch. So this comes from that. Waiting for nothing. There's no time for this or much of anything else. Angle down the street and you'll get a few sideways looks too. Raise your hand and hello as if you know someone. Merge with the crowd and they'll forget. Light through my wine glass leaves a red prism across the book I meant to read before steps on the stairs did not attach to a knock at my door. No, waiting for nothing is never dull. If you sit through the credits, the theater will empty to the ones unwilling or able to go home. Their faces mad with concentration, like maybe they know a minor gaffer or composer, like they want to be alone, and this is as close as they ever get. Me, I hide in my closet like a child. Cedar boards cool against my legs and party dresses brush their gauze against my face. And I believe again in dancing, although I haven't in years or days. Time seeps out of clocks too smoothly to tell. I sidle down the street, angling the wrong way through after-work foot traffic. I raise my hand in hello to no one and merge with the crowd. They think I know someone. They think I'm done waiting. They stare sideways like presidents on money. They move on. I should say I actually drafted that in grad school based on San Francisco, but I think that I finished it in New York because it's such a New York poem. It really feels like it. Okay, 2 more. You guys ready for this? We're like gearing up. The penultimate one is going to be like about fire, and then the last one will be about everything. Okay, so torch it. And if you go on my Instagram, actually, like, I think that the coolest like Instagram I've ever posted is the clip that I made for part of this poem. And I don't think that many people agree with me because it's so curated and probably over the top and dramatic, but honestly, it's my favorite. We built this huge bonfire, this friend of mine and I, in like the middle of the day on a weekday, and then had to keep drinking while we tended the fire until the fire was out enough that we could just leave it in the snow, or that was our excuse. So this is Torch It. If you want to see how well I walk through fire, watch me torch the place. Plenty of doors still open to my knock. The magpies are building, winging from tree to nest with twigs in their beaks. Morning doves rise drunkenly from the road. Small red-chested bird, which X are you? I lose myself in their flight. Yellow lines, pavement, the return that runs me back out, tempted to go missing intentionally, a full tank in cash. The white line speeding up when I do, slowing as I slow, a constant I can count on, steadier than the walls of any home. But forget about wings. Give me a bonfire. Freedom is a matchbook. One match for every time I get away. A match for every time I try and fail. The last desperate match thrown against everything, even what I can't live without. Thank you. So this last poem is the penultimate poem in the book, and it's the title poem. This is Rabbit Heart. And it's in 5 sections, 5 stanzas, but it's also 5 sections. Desire's unfinished kisses, my rabbit heart skittering into the brush at the gunshot of lips smacking apart. Stop pulling so hard if you want me closer. Listen to the waves, come here, go away. I hear them even when I sleep, even when landbound between buttes and sage. I hear water in the highway beneath me. I always run. Sometimes I return. If love is a fire stoked and stoked, you'll finally have to walk away someplace colder and alone to regroup, to want that kind of heat again. Let me teach you another way to hunt, a way to finish a kiss without knowing if there will be another. When the wind blows, I feel wings I cannot have, feel the down of each feather unsettle, ready. Thank you.
All right. Everybody.
Thank you very much. Yay. Well read. Well performed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mute everyone, and then Ciara, why don't you unmute? Okay, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
And so when did you start doing poetry?
Oh, man. So my dad is a poet and playwright. And I think the first poem that I wrote was when I was maybe 7. And it started, oh man, something about the old apple tree, Maura, Luke, and me. And from there we could see to the black barn, and it was rhymey. My dad helped me with it. I'm sure there's a copy of it like in my baby book.
Yeah, I wrote a poem in kindergarten that was a limerick, and I still remember it as well.
Nice.
I think everybody's first poem was probably rhymey, just because, you know, Dr. Seuss or whatever.
Yeah, Bill Silverstein.
So where did, now I know you went to school here and you went to school in Idaho, you live in Washington now. Where did you grow up?
I was born in San Francisco, but I grew up in Nebraska and Nevada.
Okay, so you just all over the place.
Well, you know, English teacher parents.
I suppose, yeah.
It's like the Army.
And so who do you take influences from?
Well, Franz Wright and Jack Gilbert are the two who just epically changed my life forever. And then being introduced to Edna St. Vincent Millay, who Jenna also talks about. I actually did a painting of her in the same kind of noir style as the one behind me. But Edna St. Vincent Millay, she was so before her time, so incredible. I'm so smitten with them. But in terms of beyond that, I went to Idaho specifically to study with Bob Wrigley. And I turned down other schools who had better financial offers because I was certain that Bob would be able to help me write more narratively without losing the lyric that I felt like I had in the poetry. And honestly, when I started school there, like, I think he thought I was a shit poet until my second year. And but what was great about that is I never apologized for what I did. He gave me a B my first semester of grad school in poetry. And I asked him why, and he said, "You never finished a poem." And so every time I published one, I would go to his office and I would say that, you know, that poem that I didn't finish, such and such, well, so-and-so published it. And it became like a game. It became like this back and forth, and it was hilarious. So I think I segued. I got off track. I'm sorry, Tony.
No, I'm trying to think of all the poems that people would probably consider unfinished for me too. And I do it. So yeah.
Well, doesn't everybody say they're never finished? They're just abandoned.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I kind of have a different attitude. My attitude is I'm writing and oh, well, fuck it. It's done. So that's how I roll. But I would not teach that if I was a teacher.
Well, in terms of editing, like, I am terrific about taking suggestions for cuts. I will cut the shit out of everything. Mm-hmm. I will cut words. I will cut entire stanzas. Like, there is very little I will like fall on a sword to keep. in terms of cutting. But when it comes to editing, I'm like, dude, no.
Yeah.
Please. I'm not doing that.
I'm with you. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really
you, Tony.
appreciate it. And we're going to move on now. All right. Our next poet is Pacyinz Lifoung, who is a French-born, Minnesota-grown, Hmong Asian American woman poet. She made her first foray into Asian American poetry through the Inroad for Asian Pacific Islanders program at the Loft Literary Center, taught by Sherry Kwan Lee. In more recent years, she sought to hone her poetry craft through several community programs such as Voices of Our Nation, or VONA, Winter Tangerine, Split This Rock, and the Jenny McKean Moore Poetry Workshop, and during the pandemic of 2020 through weekly BIPOC writing virtual workshops. She was pleased to lead a few poetry workshops focusing on Asian American poetry for Split This Rock and for BIPOC writing virtual workshop. Her poems have been published in several journals, the Asian American Renaissance Journal, Pajnatab Voice, I know I probably said that wrong, the Journal of Southeast Asian Education and Advancement, and the Stone Coast Review, among others. I'm trying to cut into this a little bit, sorry. She currently resides in Washington, D.C., and she is still working on her first poetry manuscript. This summer, she will teach a virtual poetry workshop on Southeast Asian American poetry at the Loft in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I will be posting that information in the chat. She gave it to me to post. But without further ado, everybody welcome Pacyinz Lifoung.
Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be part of this reading. I lived in Minnesota probably the last time I was there. I read probably like over a decade ago. So this is my first virtual reading quote from Minnesota. So that's very exciting to me. I thank Brian Tawara for inviting me and introducing me to Tony. Thank you, Tony, and Poets and Pints. Tonight, I will read poems from actually the Journal of Southeast Asian Studies. I believe that we have that connection with Brian, who is one of the curators there and has invited us to submit. So I will read two poems that were written in around 2017. And I was just exploring themes around trying to recover a little bit of my Hmong heritage and Hmong history. So the first poem is called Tasting the Country That Could Have Been Mine. A palm tree was cut and carved, sundered into concave mortar and peninsular pestle. But it throbs whole again every time white garlic roots rock against red pepper shredded under a shower of crystal salt and sugar confettis, pounding like lovers ever hungering for each other, to emerge languid and fragrant, dilated to shapeless smoothness, ready to swallow the fine green strands of hair, assiduously shaved to the last caress, skinning a papaya peel and licking close to the core where family jewels dangle frail and inflamed and yet discarded. Amidst a sprinkle of tamarind flesh boiled to brown honey, a gentle rain of squeezed slices of lime. And let's not forget the essence of Lao cooking, a spoonful of fish lovingly roasted to retain all the savors of a tropical river simmering in suffocating heat, all the while churned over and over with cloying, slapping sounds in the last tremors of this mystical concoction. Peanuts drop to marinate in the potent inferno of sinful flavors and soak to softness. Bits of amber crumbling under the slightest grazing of teeth into buttery bones. Girls who grew up in the shadow of a kingdom of a million elephants crave its bittersweetness. It stings, it zings, it zips, it bursts through the whole palate in an explosion of all the senses, leaving one numb and high, never full and always wanting more. In my Western-born mouth, this taste of a home I never knew burns and cries, like my mouth is on fire and my eyes will weep a deluge. But in the Eastern-born women who have swum the river, their mouths are on fire, and they roar like water dragons, swallowing earth and sky, deliciously coming home. Second poem I will read is an homage to some of my male relatives, but as well as forgotten leaders from the Hmong community in Laos. It's called Too Blind to See Giants. It's a tribute to Tulia and Litu Lifoung and all the unsung Hmong Pacyinz, Kaitongs, Naibans, and other Hmong wise men. An old man shuffles softly in hard shell shoes, shielding how he clings with all the might of his toes and heels. So strong before they could waltz through a gilded palace and steal the heart of a golden princess. Now wrapped in a shapeless coat of winter gray, his songs spiral up in whiffs of muted notes, tenderly wrenched wordlessly from a throat and lungs. So strong before they could argue and win over 100 years. The legal right to citizenship for a whole people. But today, no powers can stop the flight of a younger man. My father can no longer bear to stand on this patch of earth they had believed would save them from the communist killing rage. But now it holds his brother in inconceivable sleep. Unable to latch onto his dearly departed brother, my father lives across an ocean. His uncle can only latch onto the naked pavement and wail silently in empty cold air, sundered in this terrible moment. Reforged hardy like a Minnesotan white and pink lady sleeper, toddling a sword of justice back to my roots, I shuffle along another elder, wandering among exotic animals. Watching the gibbons swinging from a branch with the expertise of a master road builder for a new kingdom and the wisdom of a man looking into a mirror, he says, they're his favorite, almost like humans, but their bones can make good medicine or an alabastrine weapon. In my foolish youth and Western-born arrogance, I passed the great lights of my great uncles. Oblivious, those strange and sad old men used to be giants in the kingdom of a million elephants. Two among the many Hmong Charwangs, Naikongs, Tasangs, Putongs, Naibans, and other men of courage who once upon a time made Hmong dreams come true. Thank you. The next two poems I will read are poems that I wrote recently, and they're more related to my living in Washington, D.C. at the moment, as well as the fact that the Asian American communities are dealing with anti-Asian hate. The first poem is called Anacostia Kintsugi, and it is about the Anacostia River, which is a beautiful river going through DC. However, it's very polluted, so it addresses a little bit of that. Anacostia Kintsugi. 1. In the Andes crimson canvas pierced by the cold iron of arrows and katanas of his warrior life, the iridescent glaze of his dining bowl captured the sheen of sky and lake over land. This ceramic vessel took on the scent and shape of home, the laying down of a sword to pick up chopsticks, the daily celebration of living and eating, the sweet memory of a mother's or wife's comfort food, the promise of a return to halcyon days. When it broke, it shattered his heart to pieces. The artist, working with his hands, understood the yearning and mended the ceramic shards as one would heal a tender organ, gently spinning filaments of gold, flowing like a river of light, bridging sharp edges, reforming this tiny world, this man whole. 2. In the city, the walls remember the trees, and wandering souls find warmth under clear plastic stalactites in the caverns beneath underpass bridges. At the outer edges, the rusted shell of a memorial stadium honoring a gallant knight fallen before his time stands starkly in the forget-me-not sky, still beloved by those who remember his name as 3 letters ringing a moment of hope, now flowing murky, brown, laced with ancient ashes, from open pyres burning what was used and discarded, scorching her to the bone. And yet she slowly grows back, veins of short, curly green hair, mending her fractures, till she sashes with open arms, a nymph gliding in the fresh air, a rose suspended above barbed wire and thorny leaves. She beams at the new life, taking baby steps. 3. A poet once said, "We are made of war." Cookie tins haunted by the ashes of the dead and bomb craters growing under the footsteps of our daughter, shaken by the fury of wounded history, never fully healed. And yet this golden child holds all of her pieces together. 4. In the curve of her finger, a gravel path fans into a seawall of pink lotuses, descended from century-old Manchurian seeds, swaying alongside the carpet of blue lotuses, originating from Egypt. In this tiny oasis, Asian roots and African roots thrive together. In this peaceful silence, she smiles and listens to the songs of frogs and dragonflies. The last poem I will read is called Yellow Whistle. Buttercups swaying the wind on wispy stems, tiny fairies in grass forest, chirping silently of meadows and woods, seeking to escape from tar and cement, through cracks in sidewalks and at the fringes of parking lots. They lift golden bowls outside stone temples, like monks draped in uncut cotton swabs, the color of sunrise, surrendering to the kindness of strangers, filling their tackbat vessels without a sound. Each grain of rice shared plants the seeds of compassion. The whole street becomes a sacred space where the divine spark breathed into each soul links up in mutual aid, braiding into a garland of marigolds, spicing up the air, with the blessings from 1,000 hands, joining in lips of faith, fragrantly ephemeral chains of flowers, tying families, friends, and neighbors into one Milky Way, an ethereal veil of citrine stars connecting different galaxies into one universe, where a banner of bold yellow letters builds a yellow brick path, where hills click to reclaim home, which is not a White House, but a Freedom Plaza, where people from all shades of the rainbow come to affirm that Black lives matter. And yellow whistles stand guard in pockets or next to hearts until they are kissed by lips calling for help, trusting it will come to stop Asian hate. A wordless song of solidarity that all belong. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, intricate, and woven, just like the hanging behind you. I loved it. Thank you.
I liked it a lot too. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see here. Stephen, were you going to say something? Oh, that's okay. All right. So, Pacyinz, why don't you unmute yourself? Okay. So you used to live in Minnesota. Were you born and raised here, or was it just another place that you lived?
Right. So I'm actually French born and raised, because my dad was a student in France during the Vietnam War, and when Vientiane fell, Laos fell to communism, then a lot of the foreign students that had been studying abroad couldn't go back. So my family just never went back. And I lived in Minnesota for 22 years. So that's my longest residency. And I consider myself a Minnesotan at heart, even though now I live in Washington, D.C.
Okay. And when did you get into poetry? How old were you?
I was already an adult, so I came really late to poetry. I'm one of those people that just love to read. Ever since I was little, I love books. I didn't particularly like poetry. I actually never really read poetry. But what happened, of course, as an adult, is that my grandmother passed away. And I felt the need to reconnect to her stories and learn about my heritage. And I found that trying to put together, I guess, short and intense stories went better into a poetry format than like long essays or long stories. And so I think every time I was trying to write a little bit about my grandmother or my history, I would write little vignettes in a poetic form. Okay.
And do you speak multiple languages?
Yes. So French is actually my first language, although my parents say that when I was little until I was 2, and then after that I went to school, I used to speak a little bit of Hmong, but otherwise French is my first language. I still have a little bit of a French accent, and then of course English. And I guess as an adult, I'm relearning a little bit of Hmong. So yes, my next big project is going to learn how to speak and hopefully read and write Hmong.
So what language do you prefer to read in? Do you like French or you like English?
You know, nowadays I'm more used to English. So when I write, I actually write first in English. Okay. But what I have noticed is that when I translate and sometimes I translate my English poems into French because half of my family is still in France. So for them to be able to understand my poems, then I translate them in French. And what happens in that process is that maybe either my language skills are more precise or the French language is more precise, but usually my French translations are more precise than my English versions of the poems.
Oh, nice. That's very interesting. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on the show and joining us from DC. It's been great having you.
Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me space. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's move on to our final feature for the night. And I want to tell everybody that we're going to do the final feature, and then we're going to talk to them a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to a little break. And I mean a little break, probably 5 or 10 minutes. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do some open mic. And the rule on the open mic is 1 poem, 2 minutes or less. And we'll just get through as many as we can before the end of the show. And that's how it'll roll. So without further ado, we're going to move on to Tella Harlin. Chantel, also known as Tella, is a spoken word artist and author in the Twin Cities. She's also the founder and curator of Tella Productions. Tella Productions is a platform that creates safe spaces for visual performance and musical artists to display their talent and creative abilities through a showcase called Speaking Volumes. Chantel aims to expand Tella Productions to a multifaceted production company that produces plays, showcases, books, videos, and movies. With great excitement, Chantel was able to write and publish her first book called Adjusting My Crown. That is a fantastic title. In this book, she explores how one can build resilience after an unhealthy relationship through the use of captivating poetry. She provides a real-life experiences to support the reader's mental, spiritual, and emotional growth and development. Everybody, please welcome Tella Harlin.
Hi, you guys. So thank you, Tony, for the introduction. Like you said, I'm Tella. So I'll be reading, performing and reading some poems from my book. The first piece, though, is actually, my brother is also a poet, and he put together a collection of poems. So I actually wrote this poem for his book. And so I'm super excited. When I wrote it, it was in 2019, kind of before everything happened, but I feel like it's still pretty relatable to everything that's kind of going on in our world. So without further ado, I'll kind of go into the first one. It's called Black Boy in a White Country. Rise and shine, Black boy, I tell you, the world is yours, but that's a false motivator, it's really mine. I stand before you telling you to embrace your youth, but turn around and tell the jails to create an extra bed just for you. We've been built on trust, so feel free to trust me, but do so with caution, please. Because I'll give you all the tools to tear through your community like a viral disease. Man, I wish someone would warn you about the real me, but see, I've already got a hold of your family. Daddy is gone. Mama is depressed. Siblings are running to the streets, and for some reason you think you'll beat the odds and put your family back on their feet. But see, if you go to college, I'll be waiting in the classroom to apply pressure. That's even if you make it to graduation to get your diploma from your high school professor, awaiting you at every job interview to remind you are the lesser. In every boardroom meeting, reminding you that you are lower than what you aim to be. No matter where you go, you'll never be able to escape the depths of me. Your teachers will attempt to engage you. Your community will attempt to raise you. Your dreams will attempt to graze you, but I'll be laying in wait to tame you, because no matter how far you go, you'll still just be a nigga. The easiest way to erase a nation is through the pull of a trigger. Hell, if I don't do it, someone from your community will probably kill you over some J's or a wrinkled up dollar bill. Either way it goes, it gives me a thrill because I got you the way I want you, which is either poor, powerless, in jail, or in the ground. So you already took the crown off your ancestors. They were my slaves and I own you now. No matter how much you try to climb the ladder, I'll be waiting for you to slip, to make you frail, brittle, give you minimal reasons to live. No amount of money, education, power, or status, whatever loosen my grip. See, I'm ready to break you in unimaginable ways, and I get away with it because they always seem to be okay with another Black male in decay. But don't forget to get up and get a job today, because tomorrow is not promised to you. Sincerely, the United States. So that's my first one. Thank you. And so, like I said, I wrote that in 2019 from I don't know, I like woke up from a weird dream and wrote it. And so, but in the wake of everything that's kind of going on, it's still pretty relevant. With Winston and everything. So definitely, wanted to start with that. And then, as Tony was sharing before, I have a book called Adjusting My Crown. So it looks like this with my face. And so it's kind of takes you on a journey from kind of get into a relationship and kind of it being toxic and unhealthy, and how to restore and really live your best life on the other side of that. So I'll go ahead and start with one of the poems, and then two of them I'm going to read from the book, and then the last one I'll recite. But this one is called Law of Attraction. So I'm a big Langston Hughes fan, and well, like the whole Harlem Renaissance. So a lot of my poems kind of are of that feel. But I'll go ahead and start. So this one is called Law of Attraction. Law of attraction, mental action of getting what I'm after, the ability to imagine my desires and watch them appear like wildfire. But see, this can only happen if my heart and mind are aligned, because either way, I'm reaping what I see by whatever thoughts I plastered in my mind. If I focus on healthy things, it will nourish my soul. And I sit back calmly while my most positive desires show. If I allow myself to wither in my pain, it will smother me while my dreams dry up and my years age in vain. Oh, that's the second one. Thank you. I usually do like longer poems, but I'm like, every once in a while, I probably should put a little short poems in for the readers. So, you know, it feels super long. But yeah, so this next one, I actually will read from the book. So I'm super excited. You guys are the first people to know about it. But this Friday, I'm gonna be releasing my audiobook. So my book right now is on Amazon. And then like I do delivery and stuff, but I just finished the audiobook of it. So I'm super excited. But this is one of the poems from my book. It's called The Full Moon of Me. So I'll go ahead and go into this one. Have you ever noticed how beautiful the moon changes? How you can see all of its various sides and faces? There are 8 phases to the moon. Its faces change rapidly, like the attitudes and emotions of a baby born in June. Similar to a Gemini, the moon does not show you itself all at once. Oh no. It awaits the right time, sits back calmly while the sun shines, because it knows that those who await its beauty will await its glamorous glow. You see, the moon is me. Once upon a time, you said you wanted to see all of me, all of my various sides. But how do I know that once I reveal the deepest of me, you won't run and hide? Because you want to see what a man has never saw. See, the darkest parts of me contain pain, anger, and shame, and some things I'm too embarrassed to claim. So are you ready? My phases change rapidly. One day I could be the first quarter of the moon, opening up, sharing everything I know. The next day I could be crescent, ready to shut down, wishing I could let you go, because honestly, no one has ever been inside. I have buried my emotions so deep, since my soul lies in fear of love. The sweetest voice makes my feelings go run and hide. But tell me, if I start cycling through my moon phases, will you start changing? Searching for another sunshine when I reveal my various faces? Will you see the fun girl even in the moments I cry? Will you recognize through my smile when I lie and tell you I'm just fine? Will you remember my unconditional love when I'm too stubborn to show it? Because I need your heart to caress mine, to help grow. It is my desire to be whole, a feeling I seek in you. Allow me to open up. See, I yearn to be as full as the moon. So let me shine in the darkest of nights through my deepest insecurities. And I believe we won't regret the great works that come to be once I reveal the different phases of the moon that live in me. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So I got 2 more for you guys. At first I wasn't gonna do this one, but like I think it's a good poem for the crowd. I'm always like leery. So another one of my like favorite people is Poetry. And Poetry, so there's a singer and a poet. And so they do this like back and forth thing. It's called Fantasize. And I've always loved this poem. And so I had redid it. And I at the time I did it, I had a singer on it. but you know, I do this one and kind of like sing like it's like a song kind of. So I kind of try to incorporate the song and the poem together. So hopefully you like it. Okay, we'll go into this. So it's fantasize about you. I fantasize about you like every day, and I want to do just everything. See, baby, just everything. I fantasize about you almost every day. I dream about everything that we can do. The thoughts of you are too good to be true. When I peek into your eyes for a moment in time, you bless my gloomy soul with the ray of your sunshine. You are the truth, and I hope that you know it. I'm not the one to hold my tongue, but the thoughts of you keep me sprung, and whatever love spell you placed on me can't seem to be undone. I stumble over my words in your sight, because when you smile, it can light up a dark night. Just a glimpse of you can ease any anxiety or fire flight. A small conversation can fill my heart up for days. I often daydream about the ways I can get closer to you, skin to skin. Something tells me you are much deeper from within. When I fantasize about you like every day, and I want to do just everything. See, baby, just everything. And I still fantasize every day. I allow my fantasies to take place with just a glimpse of your face. My imagination swirls out of control, thinking about all the places you would take me for dates. You know, the best spots that only you would know, or how we would travel hand in hand through sand and knee-high snow just to spend a moment alone, because the way our conversation is set up, we can talk for days and days and days and days. We share a connection closer than the hairs on your husky beard, because once we connect, there's no way to tear us apart. And without even searching, you found the roadmap to my heart. But I push myself away because my past may have you looking at me sideways without hesitation to stay. And even though I ain't perfect, I damn sure am worth it. You could be the one to help me straighten out my crooked ways. Yet intelligence and logic, when spoken, gives me nutrition. I can't help but think that if your cup is half empty, I can help fill it. When I fantasize about you, I can't stop myself from fantasizing about you. I imagine what life would be like, you know, just us two. Imagine the nights you would hold me tight and how we would pass out with feathers in our hair after a pillow fight, or how we would fight under the covers until the darkness turned to light, or how I would listen to your craft and begin reciting your words, picking up on your lingo, collecting your adjectives and verbs, or watching you as you sleep just so you can catch my eyes when yours open. Your unspoken love feels like an addiction. I yearn for you and I lose my focus. You got me stalking your page just to get a glimpse of your face, just to create moments I may never be able to engage in. So I watch from a distance, even though I know I am everything you're missing. I fear love after my heart has been broken 2 times too many. But something tells me that despite our traumatic love experiences, you still get me. The thoughts of you put my mind on ease. So if you don't mind, just let me please fantasize about you like every day. And I want to do just everything. See, baby, just everything. Oh.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So I have one more, and then I'll be out of here. So this one is, so like Tony said, my name is Chantel, but my stage name is Tella. And so when I had transitioned to actually having a stage name, it was actually a nickname I had got from somebody. And so, but I wanted to kind of give it like a meaning behind it. And so I kind of came up with this poem because of that, to kind of have like a reason behind my name. So I'll go ahead and start. Tella, the overachiever, the GOAT in every season. Why fear anything when you've been through every reason to be beat down and broken? Don't fake like you ain't been chosen to speak the words unspoken. Your greatness forever showing. You just know what you deserve. No time to waste, wait, or be curved. Lessons were meant to be learned, so fly over the bridges they burned. There is no real joy in chasing fame. No time to waste the vision you gained in your darkest moments. Just remember the essence of your name, which is to take every risk, eliminate every obstacle, live when it feels impossible, love like it's your last moment, achieve since you've been chosen. Tell her, tell her, tell them, tell him. Tell your story is something about this name that gives me the power in which to reclaim all the years that life has lived without me, but I will no longer allow it to wither away in vain. No time to wait to be unwrapped. See, I bust through the seams because I'm truly the rose that grew from concrete. And I will blossom over anyone that attempts to cut me down through their weeds. And my purpose will continuously unfold, so I'll tell it all, because my story benefits no one when left untold. And so that's it.
All right, everybody, unmute. Give her some love.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Well spoken, well delivered.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. All right, Tella, why don't you unmute yourself? How you doing?
Good.
Good. So you mentioned your brother's a poet. What's his name?
His name is Benny Randall.
Benny Randall. All right. Just we should know that if you're gonna bring it up.
Look, yes.
So what got you into this poetry thing?
So I've always been pretty much an outspoken child, like very like theatric. And so 7th grade, I went into theater and kind of just like wrote it out through then. I didn't really start doing poetry until probably like high school. I was, if anybody is familiar with St. Paul, I went to Central. And so I did Central Touring Theater. So I used to do theater. And we used to put on like our own plays and stuff. So I kind of learned about how to do that and how to write for that.
All right. Yeah, we have a similar path, actually. I did theater in school and started really writing. I mean, I started as a young kid, but not really. And then I really started writing it in high school. But all that poetry is terrible. I don't even like talking about it. So what, who are some of your influences?
So, you know, Langston Hughes. I mean, honestly, the whole Harlin Renaissance, Zora Neale Hurston. I remember I got to, in my first year of college, I did did one of her poems, and I kind of like was able to do it, you know, like perform it. And so that's really nice. And I kind of like to not like, I mean, I read from my book if I need to, but I rather would perform my poems just because of like my theater background and my spoken word. It just helps me like remember it if I'm actually like in motion. So that's always helpful. And then, like I said, poetry, Solange. I really just like very like free women who kind of like are like outspoken.
Jill Scott.
Yep, I love Jill Scott. I love Lauryn Hill.
Yep. I love
Very
Jill
free
Scott
thought.
too. And actually, I have a similar style with where I much rather perform it. Anybody who's seen me knows I don't typically just read the poem. I do the poem. And I try to get other people to do it as well, because, you know, if you're just going to read from your book, we could just read your book.
This is true.
But I really appreciate you being here today. It's been fun, and I hope you stay for the open mic as well. And before we go to break here, I want to just tell everybody that we are going live again in July. I did put this in the chat, but just want to let everybody know it's July 21st at Sisyphus Brewery, which is right behind Dunwoody. Please be there. We'll start at 7 o'clock, go till 10. On the show, we have the co-founder of Poets and Pints, David Bayless, Annette Gagliardi, who is a member of the League of Minnesota Poets, Julie Adrian, and then Ciara Shuttleworth is going to be on, and I'm very excited for this lineup. And then in August 18th, I'm so excited. It's going to be Poets and Pints number 75. I was born in 75. It's going to be my book release. And opening for me, we have Joe Davis, who's amazing. We have Ashley Cardona, and we have Brendan Brophy. So please be there as well. Please be at all the shows. And we're just rolling on into the future now live. And hopefully we'll find a way to still broadcast this on our YouTube channel. But for now, just plan on being there if you can be there. I know those out of state, you know, buy a plane ticket, whatever you got to do, but you should be there. All right, so we're going to be gone for 5 or 10 minutes. Let's just say come back at 10 to 9 and we'll do some open mic. Thank you.
To me, my melancholy baby, cuddle up and don't be blue. All your fears are foolish, fancy maybe. You know, dear, that I'm in love with you. Every cloud must have a silver lining. Wait until the sun shines through. Oh, smile, my honey dear, while I kiss away each tear, or else I shall be melancholy too. So smile, my honey dear, while I kiss away each tear, or else I shall be melancholy too. Or else I will be melancholy too.
At you flirting with that fortune hunter, that gondola pusher.
Well, I guess it's none of your business whom I flirt with.
It is too. It's every man's business to protect foolish women.
Oh, I'm foolish, am I?
Yes.
Just because I find the Count attractive. I guess you don't realize what a charm he has for women.
Oh.
Being a mere baby, you wouldn't. But all these continentals, they're so subtle, so polished.
Yeah, shoes.
Their manners, the things they say to us.
A lot of lying good for nothing. That's what they are. If I were you, I'd wait until I grew up before I try to judge men.
I'm 18.
Mere child.
Is that so? My mother was only 18 when I was born.
That's what she says. Of course, in the olden days.
Yes,
in the olden days, it was far
Long
different.
gray beards
There was
going
no-
down to the ground.
Life is a book that we study. Some of its leaves bring us sighs. was written, my buddy, that we must part, you and I. Nights are long since you went away. I think about you all through the day, my buddy, my buddy. Nobody quite so true. Miss your voice, the touch of your hand. Just long to know that you understand, my buddy, my buddy, your buddy misses you. Buddies through all of the gay days, buddies when something went wrong. I wait alone through the gray days, missing your smile and your song. Miss your voice, the touch of your hand. Just long to know that you understand, my buddy, my buddy, your buddy misses you. Misses you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We didn't get a ton of people signed up, but we can also just take if there's other people who want to go. But first, we'll go through the people who have signed up. So we will start with someone I haven't heard speak in a long time, Rick Hilbert.
Oh my goodness, Tony, it is good to hear your voice again too. You know me, I can do one poem. The poem is called Shelter Animal, and it's in two parts. It's only 6 stanzas. It involves Maxine, who is a typical COVID era at home alone person, and takes on Maxwell as her pet. And then in part 2, we hear more about the qualities of Maxwell, the shelter animal. Here goes. Maxine brought him into her domain, thinking he needed, what was it? Was it belonging? Yes, in sheltering, his reputation and a long abeyance meant he, long left behind, would belong to her. Well, it was a theory. COVID strangers and COVID friends soon are not wed. and wisely. Replacement remains her option. Part 2 of Shelter Animal. Maxwell slept at the foot and never abed. He seemed to know not to assume place is status. Not yet. A botched raid to a wrong address left him dead. He decided to defend her in harm's way. Well, decided is a tad strong. True. He acted true. A friend. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everyone.
All right, moving right along. That was Rick Hilburn. Next on the list, we have Francis James.
Hi, thank you, Tony. It's been a long time since I've been here. I had to arrive a little late tonight. I was in a prior meeting, but the last two poets were just amazing, so much talent. And I am gonna watch the recording so I can see the first two as well. Okay, I have a poem tonight called Sunday Promise, and this just got picked up for an anthology called Preposition, and it's the first anthology that I'm gonna be in, so I'm excited about that. Okay. I could have stayed like a robin caught in a drain. I could have lied, but I'm gentle. I could have hushed every doubt to a mystery, but I hear so well, so damn well. You will not be my dry throat song, not a laugh with my head hurled back, letting every joy go where it wants to. My joy is more than an obligatory half-lipped smirk. It wasn't always this. Again, I won't lie. I remember our hearts playing jump rope. I remember thanks to the sky. I remember kite days, strong and high. I remember bodies, our bodies, like a Sunday promise. I wonder if I'll ever know where that Sunday promise went to rest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next on our list, we have Charlie Curry.
Hit the right button and I can unmute myself. I didn't do that during a conference a few weeks ago, and when it got too frustrating, I thought I was muted and I said something I shouldn't have.
Did you say
I'm sure
fuck?
nobody else has ever done that. So
Did you say fuck?
not quite, but
Okay. I was hoping. I was so hoping.
Anyway, this is a continuing thing in my obsession with Jeremy Bentham. For those of you who don't know, Jeremy Bentham was a philosopher in the right around the time that that our country was coming into being. He was English. He did a lot of reforming. He codified something called utilitarianism, which was a philosophy of those days. And the modern residual of that is form follows function architecture. And he had a prison design where everybody could see everybody, where the wardens could see everybody, but the jailed could not see the wardens. It was called the panopticon, and some of you may have heard of it. So I was thinking about our last year of enforced semi-prison and thinking of it, and this is the last one in that series. It's called Zoom Opticon. Bentham would be pleased, the space so orderly, each one in their own square, like school children, in neat rows and columns. if we fit ourselves in an organized pattern that speaks of progress and productivity. It's an inspection house of sorts without a distinction between warden or inmate or inspector of wardens. We flow among the roles. The watcher becomes the watched, becomes the inspector, and round we go. The annular space is not even a space, just a thin black wall separating each person's square from the others, immutable barrier among us. As prisons go, it could be worse. I can mute my frustration. If I'm wearing pants, I can get up. I can exercise my swelling feet if I turn off the video. Even so, to participate, I must stay still in my chair, interrogate each square for signs of interaction. It is utilitarianism digitized, form following function, shaping us into a resemblance of community. But the digital cannot accommodate the spaces between. The analog tells a fidgety foot or the sidewise glance. Even a raised eyebrow can be missed in the sea of small squares. 2 minutes to start, retrieve my coffee, maybe a snack, move up the stairs to my office, flip up the laptop, click the link, follow the path to the meeting. Each face its own moving postage stamp, each one wondering when the utility wears out.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Allie, do you want to do a poem or no?
Yeah, I'd love to do one.
All right, great.
I have a poem that I wrote kind of about being like stuck in a pattern, recognizing those cycles that we all kind of, get stuck doing the same repetitions and just trying to do a little bit better with each round. It's called For the Record. I am a broken record of defeat, retreat, regroup, let go, grow, survive, strive, stretch, very little rest. Rinse and repeat, it's not about balance so much as the beat, frequency, what's between. Defeat, retreat, recoup, let's go, stretch, grow, strive, surprise, another test. Thaw and reheat, it is not about balance as much as the beat, frequency, melody and harmony, deplete, recede, prelude, let grow, retry, surmise, it's time, intentional rest. Rinse and repeat, it's not about balance so much as the beat, frequency, what's between. Bridge the gap, better not best. Process, digest, take a breath and invest. I am blessed.
Nice, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me share.
I haven't heard you speak in a long time.
It's been a minute. I'm looking forward to getting back out to Sisyphus, but
Me too.
I appreciate that you've got these going online and you had an amazing lineup tonight. Thank you to all the women that read tonight. It was really lovely to listen.
Yes. And speaking of the women that read tonight, do any of you have a cover that you want to do? Like, you were features already, but we don't have a lot of people on the call. So do you have a cover that you want to do? Anybody? Chantel, Jenna, or Pacyinz?
When you say cover, you mean like somebody else's poem?
Somebody else's poem, yeah.
Hold on, let me see if I can find one.
Okay. What about you, Jenna?
I wish I'd brought something. Let me see if I could find something on the internet. Give me a moment.
And Pacyinz, you got one?
And unfortunately, I have to leave at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
But this was wonderful, and I was so glad to be able to share poetry with poets and poetry lovers from Minnesota. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and then hopefully we'll see each other again in some of our poetic spaces.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
I'll read a short haiku by my friend Ed Shackley, if that's okay. It's timely. It's called The Cicada. I, like everyone in their 17th summer, sprouted wings and sang. That's by Ed Shackley.
Nice. All right. Well, Chantel's looking. I'm going to read one just to fill the space here. Are you ready? Are you ready, Tella? You're muted.
There it goes. So I forgot. I actually had this poem book I just bought from Target. And so I haven't read it yet, but so I'll just read one from here.
Cold reads, love it.
I know, I'm like, let's see. We're gonna read one together. Okay, let's see. So I'm gonna read this one. It says All Too Normal. And the author is Jasmine Maines. All too normal, how we let our boys go. We try to find them after they're gone in the longing. All too normal, the tremor of longing, and how it fits uncomfortably in our everythings, everywhere. All too normal, how we don't know what we until it's in the skin they be wearing. All too normal, how it stays so perfect for the morning and the morning after.
And what was the poet's name again?
Jasmine Maines.
Nice.
So this is what the Black girl call home.
I like it. So this is my new book coming out. It's called The Conflict That Creates. And it comes out August 18th at Poets and Pints. And I'm going to read a poem from it. It's called How Water Sees the Stone. Does she have to be the sea? Her fluidity leaves me somewhere to stand, a man without a shore. This hand could use 4 more hands that could catch her, and I'm sure she doesn't care or notice. She just floats this idea of freedom, a grand scale, a wee sum, all swirled together. It seems like forever to get her particular part to get to her particular part of the ocean. Earthbound and hoping close thoughts open the way for this pattern. I had earned her trust and then thrust my insecurities into her pocket. This weighted her feet and her eye sockets, and I could have stopped it. I chose to dissent, to disagree, essentially to flee my responsibilities, and she stayed here, floating in a sea of fear. Riding the waves and the tide, choosing not to hide from her detractors, choosing to fight her attackers, choosing to take back and stack the deck in her favor. Stupid of me to try to be her savior when all I could do is stand only when there was land. The hand I held out was only doubt in the form of a palm. She chooses calm. There's simply no way to argue. So that is our show. I would like to thank Jenna Lee for being here. I would like to thank Ciara Shuttleworth, who has already logged off. And then, of course, Pacyinz Lifoung, who has already logged off. And Tella Harlin for being here. Thank you to everybody who read as well for the open mic. This has been Poets and Pints number 73. And remember, we are a nonprofit. So if you'd like to donate, please go to crackedwalnut.com. Give anything if you can. If you can't, who cares? It's fine. And we hope to see you all, if you can make it, to Sisyphus Brewery, July 21st, 7 p.m. The party starts again. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a wonderful night.
You too, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony.
Thanks so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. I enjoyed your readings.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Charlie.
Dreams of love so true, o'er the sea of memory, I'm dreaming.